okay, I don't know what the universe is trying to teach me. Maybe it's trying to teach me stuff so I can in turn teach it to you guys. So that's what I'm trying to do, is teach you the real world of not just detailing, not just how to, but because operating a detail business is far more than just how to detail a car. Okay, so let me set it up. This morning's appointment, incredibly frustrating. And after 25 years, I'm thinking, what the what? I cannot believe that I'm still dealing with this stuff. But the common denominator is humans, okay? Human nature, unrealistic expectations. So what I've reduced it down to is the power of no. There are very few things in life that are as liberating and freeing as the ability to say no. And how do you know when to say no and when to walk away? Because when you first start out in the business, you will find that you become the yes man. Yes to everything and anything, because you want business, you want money, you want to learn, so it's yes, 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 yes. Well, at this stage in my life, I'm having to learn the power and beauty of no. And this morning, I literally said, no, thank you. I shook the guy's hand and said, you know what? I don't think we're a good fit. So the Reader's Digest version is this, before I take you out on location, is that I had an extensive conversation with this guy on the phone. He lives in a very affluent part of the county in which I live. Okay, the price of entry just to live in this gated community is a minimum of $800,000 for a home, and just goes up into the millions from there. So it's unique in many ways. So I talked to the guy extensively on the phone, as I do. I do what I call due diligence, ask the right questions so I can begin to A, come across as an expert, establish trust and rapport, and to begin to assess their expectations and manage their expectations. The first point of engagement, which for me is usually over the phone. So I got out there after about 12 and a half minutes of talking to the guy, which is already frustrating because it took me like 10 minutes just to get through the darn security gate. You know, these gated communities. Anyhow, that's a whole nother can of worms. So I was already frustrated to a degree. And then I'm spending 12 and a half minutes talking to this guy and learning very quickly that, okay, Johnny customer, you clearly are A, neurotic, and B, have unrealistic expectations. And that's 12 and a half minutes that I should be spending working on your car. And time is money. So in essence, this is 12 and a half minutes of my time that you're not going to get, because I'm having to talk you off the edge of the cliff because I can clearly tell that you have unrealistic expectations. So after 12 and a half minutes, in my head, it's like, okay, this is where I just got to hit the guy in the middle of the forehead and say, no, no, thank you. I don't think we're a match. I don't think that we will both win in this situation or this transaction. So I'm just going to leave. And he hesitated because most people, quite frankly, aren't used to that direct approach. And I can be very direct. Yes, I can still maintain a high level of diplomacy, but I'm going to be very direct, and I'm going to hit him right in the middle of the eye and say, no, thank you. And so he was taken aback, and he hesitated. He's like, wow. In his head, he's probably thinking, wow, no one's ever told me no. This doesn't make sense. I don't know what to do. I can just see the gears spinning in his head, and they're being all disoriented because he's just not used to it. So he hesitated and said, you know what, Darren, I think you might be right. And at that point, I didn't care. I was so frustrated, and I just thought, man, dude, you are the incongruent moment of the day or the month. And I was so willing to walk away. But then he hesitated some more, and it's like, okay, you know what, Darren? I want you to stay. I want you to do it. And it's like, well, you know what? I really don't think you have realistic expectations. I've gone to length to inform you so you can make an informed decision, and I just don't think it's a good fit, so I'm just gonna have to say no. And so he backs up again and says, you know what, no, I really want you to stay. I want you to do it. I didn't say a word. I said, okay, that's fine, I'll do it. In the back of my head, I'm thinking, wow, this really could be a moment where I will have wished I had just walked away and lost my travel time, my talking time in person, my talking time on the phone. So I had a fair amount to lose, but I stayed and I did it. So let's go out. I'm going to show you specifically what happened. I'm going to show you the car, and then I'll bring you back, and you can stick around for as long as you want and learn as much as you possibly can from yet another video. Okay, what we have is a 2004 Audi TT. I'm hoping this will play out in our favor because there's a huge learning moment here. I made other videos about it. It's called managing expectations. So I wanted to show you the before. So, and this is what's tough about shooting video, is the light changes as I'm working. So in order to get a true before and after, it's very difficult. I just want you guys to see what it's like in the real world, and so I'm just letting you know that it is very difficult to have these moments as well as to do a before and after, because I'm never going to duplicate this exact moment where you can just go, okay, before, after, before, after. But with that said, is I do my best. So here's the before, plenty of spider webbing, wash, scratch. Many people call this swirl marks because when you look at the sun, where direct light is concentrated on the surface, it creates a swirled pattern. Okay, that's an illusion. Those scratches are not really in a circular pattern. It just creates that because the light is so focused in a very direct spot. Anyhow, so we'll see how it plays out. I'm going to finish polishing this. I just got done showing the customer, and this is shade, so it's not really going to do any justice. This is where we have before. Maybe if I come over here and I zoom in. So this is before and this is after. So there's the sun. Let's see what happens when I move over to the after side, what happens. And I will be as surprised as you do when I load this onto my computer. Now with that said, is I am not doing a perfection job here. This is what's called, I would say, mid to upper level paint correction. It's a 2-stage polish. I'm using Menzerna polishes. They're my current favorites. I'm using foam, a foam cutting pad, a foam finishing pad. I've got my Menzerna FG 400. Yes, I even have to correct myself. This is what and it's called compound. This is the more aggressive polish, so I'm starting out with that, with what's considered a foam cutting pad. It's firm as compared to soft. This is a different pad, as you'll notice, with the little reverse truncated domes. I don't know what you officially want to call that, but this is where I don't overthink the pads, so long as they're firm enough and soft enough. And then I've got my SF 4000 as my finish. Okay, are we ready for the big reveal? So let's walk around. I have no idea what's going to show up on video. So, is this paint perfect? No, of course it is not. But what I promised to deliver was I could remove 80% of the wash, scratch, or spider webbing, call it what you want. Now, if I was going to be truly objective, as much as a person can be objective about themselves and their own work, I would say is well above 80%. I'd put it at about 96%. But that's just me, you know. Anyhow, so in reference, there's a couple spots. Let's see if I can even find it. He had a couple real big concerns, and here I am trying to look for it. There it is. Let's see if I can pick it up in the lighting. There's a little bird dropping that etched. There it is, right there. You see that? And see how it's a crater? I'm trying to get different angles so it'll really show up. Okay, so I knew that it was unrealistic to be able to color sand or wet sand that away entirely because I would go through the clear coat. Well, he did not understand that process. He also, there was scuffs from feet along this rail here, which is totally normal. But to truly sand these away, half of them would still be there because they're so deep. I would sand away through the clear coat. And then the time, I mean, it would be so labor intensive. It's just unrealistic for most people, you know, unless we're talking about some show car. But honestly, as you're coming up to this car, you're going to be so dazzled by the shine. I promise you, no one's going to notice those little scratches right there, the kick plate or this bird dropping, unless Johnny customer decided to point it out to him. So let's look up at the hood. I'm trying to catch every bit of lighting for you so you can check it out. And this is me doing my inspection. I got to rotate the car and then I'll bring the customer out and we'll see where it goes from there. Okay, so you're out on location. You saw the two hot buttons, which was the bird dropping stain and the scratches along the kick plates or the threshold plates. Now, at a starting point, Johnny customer did not even talk to me about this on the phone. All he was concerned about was, oh, is Darren the right guy? Can he work on black paint? We discussed payment issues. He actually, and this is yet an incongruent moment, I told you he lives in a very affluent part of the county. It's Dove Canyon. If you're from this area, you know that that's very exclusive. Gated community, the whole works. So I quoted him. He wanted a full detail. I quoted him okay, let me back up. First it was, okay, I want a detail. It's like, okay, it's a black two-door car. So my prices are between $300 to $350. Then he talks about his paint needing some work. And I said, okay, how long's it been since you detailed your car? Well, it's been about 4 years. And I'm thinking, 4 years, okay, here we go with the incongruent moments or contradictions, call them what you want. Guy lives in a very affluent part of the county. He's driving a black Audi TT, not a cheap car. It's black, not an easy car to take care of. And he's waited 4 years to detail it, and it's an 04 model. So already it's like, okay, this doesn't make sense. So he started out with a detail. Okay, so $300 to $350. Then he talks about his paint needing some help. It's like, okay, paint correction time. Based on your description, which included nothing about the bird dropping and the specific scratches. It was just about that he's seeing what we call spider webbing in the industry. So I'm suggesting to him what I think would be appropriate is a 2-stage polish with a wax. That's going to be another couple $100. So right now you're going to be at between $500, possibly $600, depending upon what I see when I get there. And he goes, wow, I'm not really prepared to spend that kind of money, Darren. And I said, okay, well, that's fine. When you are, call me up. I'm not going anywhere. And I said, hey, just as a side note, what people sometimes do is they decide that, yes, Darren is the guy I want for my car. Maybe right now I don't have the funds to spend the money to do a full detail, so you can break it up into parts. So I have customers that will say, okay, I want Darren because he knows what he's doing. I'm going to get good value with Darren. So what I can do is either get the interior done and then the exterior done separate. So I suggested that to him. And that's a strategy that you can use. And it's a way to make the sale. Because if I had not said that, I would have lost the sale. And at this point, it really didn't matter to me. Really, a lot of what I do is kind of really learning how to put something into play that I can teach you guys that are just starting out. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. I wonder if I could actually save the sale here. I really don't care because if I'm not working on a car, that means I can shoot another video and edit it and work on my websites and all that stuff. So I suggested that to him and he thought, hey, you know what? That makes sense. I'm more concerned with the outside. So how much will you charge me to do the outside? I said, based on your description, $250 to $300. Okay, let's do it. So a few days later, because this was about a week in advance, I get a text from him. And I'd already, by the way, talked to him about the cash. I said, okay, it sounds like you did a fair amount of reading on my website. Yes, I did, Darren. Okay, so I take cash only from any first-time customers. Yes, I saw that. Okay, good to go. A few days later, I get a text from him, and it says, do you accept credit cards? And it's like, well, okay, this doesn't make sense. We specifically discussed it on the phone, and now you're sending me a text and says, do I take credit cards? I've already answered that question. So I wrote back and said, no, I'm not equipped to accept plastic. End of text. It's like, okay, fine. Well, I always confirm my appointments the day before. Well, that text came in 2 days prior. So the next day, which would have been yesterday, I sent him a text and said, because he just flew off the radar at that point. I answered his question, said, no, I don't take credit. Once again, it's cash only. So I texted him last night and said, okay, I will see you tomorrow morning between 8:30 and 9 a.m. Question mark, as in, this is me confirming our appointment. He sent back and said, okay, good to go. So I show up this morning. We're looking at his car. I pull it out in the sun because I want to see how bad the swirl marks, spider webbing, wash, scratch, whatever. I want to see what I'm dealing with. So we pulled out in the sun. It's like, oh yeah, okay. When did you say was the last time you detailed this car? 4 years ago. Okay, right there. Once again, it's like, dude, why have you waited 4 years? You're living in this house that literally would sell for $1 million something. It's a black TT. It's your weekend car, so I know you have another car that you get to drive. Okay, it doesn't add up. Why the heck did you wait 4 years? So I'm looking at him going, yeah, this is pretty extensive. This needs some help. I can fix it. I said, based on my recommendation, I can remove 80% of those swirl marks, spider webbing effect, call it what you want. So that's when he began to show me the bird etching from a bird dropping. And I'm looking at it and I say, you know what? I can't remove that 100%. I can tell by looking at it that it's deep enough, by feeling it and looking at it, that it is through the clear coat. So I can improve it, but I cannot remove it 100%. Well, I can tell at that moment, I could see the wheels spinning in his head, and he is suddenly becoming disappointed because his expectations are way up here. And this is where I bring the whiteboard in between what's possible and what's appropriate. Okay, so I know through experience that it's not even possible for any detailer to fix that through wet sanding and buffing. The only way to fix it 100% is body shop time. So I said, okay, Johnny customer, this is just not possible. You do not understand the nature of the beast. Clear coat is roughly about 3 mils thick. Okay, imagine a sticky note. You know how thick a sticky note is? Well, guess what? Your clear coat's thinner than a sticky note. You know the wrapper on a cigarette box of cigarettes? That clear plastic wrapper? That's about the thickness of clear coat. Do you realize how thin that is? So I know that bird dropping's not going to go away. I can't improve it. Okay, so he's already disappointed. I can see that he's inside. He's probably being like a petulant child, and he's like going into freak out mode. It's like, whoa, what, you're telling me no? Yeah, I'm telling you no. That's not realistic. Second, he's pointing out these scuffs along the threshold plate that him and his wife have both conveniently put in because they don't lift up their feet and they kick the threshold plate every single time they get in and out of the car. And he wants them gone. So I'm looking at him saying, okay, once again, I can improve these dramatically. To do it to what I think your expectations are, I would have to color sand it. Do you realize how labor intensive it would be to color sand an edge where there's scuffs all along it? I have to tape it off very strategically when I'm sanding. I've got to tape it off very strategically when I'm buffing it because I don't want to burn that edge. And I already know that enough of those scuffs are so deep, it's through the clear coat, so it will not be removed 100%. So now he's disappointed yet again. And this is where I can tell that he has unrealistic expectations, and a large part is due to just plain ignorance. He does not know what is realistic. So this is where we come to the whiteboard. I don't know if you're going to be able to read this. So what we have is what is possible in life. And by possible, I mean if you had endless amount of funds, what can physically and humanly be possible? Can it be done by anyone? Can it be done by you? There is a difference. Then there's what's appropriate. Okay? It may be possible, but guess what? Based on what you've told me, it may not be appropriate for numerous reasons. Does it make sense based on all the factors and all the variables? This is where I've divided into two categories. Should you do it? Should you not do it? Okay, so this is literally what I take customers through. Okay, Johnny customer. For example, the bird dropping, it is not possible. The only way to fix that 100% is taking it to the body shop. Do you want to do that? Well, no, I don't, Darren, because that would be expensive, or I don't like the body shops. Okay, then it's back to it's not possible. Now in his head, which he confirmed later, because at the end of our appointment, I really dug in and asked him some very difficult questions and really put him on the spot in behalf of you guys so I can then relay it to you. So body shop is not an option. It's like, so in his head now he's suddenly thinking, well, maybe Darren doesn't know how to do it. Maybe another detailer. And he told me point blank, he said, Darren, I'm going to be honest with you. You're not the cheapest guy around, and so I'm a little hesitant. It's like, hey, I'll be the first to tell you I'm not the cheapest guy in town. In fact, I even tell you right on my homepage of my website, hey, if you're price shopping, I'm not the guy for you. That's not me. So we've concluded, or I've had to tell him based on his ignorance, that what your expectation is not possible in the realm of detailing. So then it's like, okay, disappointment. Same with the threshold plates. It's not possible. The scratches are too deep. I could remove half of them through very extensive and time-consuming color sanding and polishing and taping, but if I can only remove half of them, anyhow. So then it's this list. Should not. Okay, is the car worth it? Okay, he's driving a 04 Audi TT. It's a nice car. As you saw in the video, it's a pretty cool looking car. I don't know what the resale value on that would be. Maybe it'd only be $12,000, but I guarantee when he bought it brand new, it was probably a $45,000 car. Okay, so in my opinion, is $300 worth it? Absolutely. Okay, so if it's worth it, hey, Johnny customer, why the hell have you not done it already? Whether it was me or someone else. Okay, that perplexes me. Okay, maybe the car's not worth it. Customers spending money they don't have. I see that all the time. Okay, but I let them decide that. I'm showing up to a house where I'm thinking, okay, your house is literally falling apart, but you've called me out to spend $300 or $400 detailing your car. Perhaps that money should actually go into your house, but that's just me. I don't know. So I can't decide that for them. Okay, they can't afford what is required or what they want, which is they have expectations and needs that don't match their budget. They can't maintain it once I've done it. So like this car, if I spend 3-4 hours buffing it to near perfection, is it appropriate in the context that are they going to be able to maintain it? So maybe they shouldn't go level 9. Maybe they should only go level 7 because they can't maintain it. Or are they willing to learn to maintain it themselves, or willing to pay someone like myself or someone else to maintain it for them that knows what they're doing. Okay, so that's the discussion, meaning this is what you need to understand, the difference between what's possible, what's appropriate, can you do it, or can anyone do it? Does it make sense based on the variables? This is where you have to dig in and ask the questions, establish rapport, establish trust, and begin to manage their expectations. Okay, so like I said, after about 12 and a half minutes, I could tell, and I told him point blank, I said, you know what, I gotta be honest with you, this is very incongruent. Like, why have you waited this long to do your car, and why now? And the most incongruent moment, the biggest glaring contradiction in the moment was this. And I used the analogy that it's like, okay, pretend you just went into the most fabulous home and you're looking at this floor and it's imported tile from, let's say, Italy, you know, and if it's from Italy and it's tile, it's got to be special, right, and expensive. But let's say over in the far corner there's one missing tile, and you become fixated on that missing tile, and you become so fixated on it, and this is what I call being neurotic and unrealistic, inappropriate, whatever you want to call it. It's like you become so focused on that one missing tile at the expense of this fabulous home, this fabulous floor, and everything else, because you're so focused on that. And that's exactly what this guy was doing. It's like, okay, I got to tell you that from my perspective, you know what you're doing, and this is what I told him. I said, you're focusing on literally the 0.5% of your car at the expense of the rest of your car. Your car is cool. It's black. It needs some help. When you look at it, you just say, oh, what a cool car. I said, but when I'm done with it, people will have to look at it because it will pop. And it will look so clean and shiny that they will have to look and they will go, wow, now that thing looks amazing. Okay? But because you're so fixated on these two little spots that you want fixed, you ruin it for everyone. You're ruining it for yourself. You're ruining it for me. I just showed up here. I spent my time and effort to come here. Now I'm spending more time and effort to talk to you. And now I'm going to look you in the face and say, you know what? I don't think I want to do the job. I don't think this is going to be a win for both of us, and I'm going to have to say no. And that's where I said, as he was like, whoa, what's going on here? So, as I said already, we decided I'm going to do it. So he goes in the house, and I start doing it. And literally in my head, I'm thinking, okay, is this going to be the one moment, Darren, where you seriously regret it? And the guy, no matter what I do, is just going to be disappointed. So let's go back in. I'm going to show you the finished product. And as I told him, I said, you know what? To be honest, well, actually, let me back up. What I actually told him was this. When he came out, I said, hey, you know what? I told you at the beginning that I could remove 80% of the scratches, the swirls, whatever you want to call them. The bad news is I was only able to remove 90% of them. Okay. Joke, right? So he kind of chuckled, and the correct response at that point would be like, whoa, Darren, are you kidding? It looks like you removed like 95% of them. Of course, Johnny Hardass doesn't say that. It's like, dude, can you throw me a bone here? I just spent 3.5 hours polishing your paint. I already showed you before and after on the hood prior to me getting into the whole car. You came out and you were amazed. You're like, whoa. I didn't see that coming. It's like, no, you didn't, because you don't know. So at this point, it's like, dude, throw me a bone, you know? I expect you to come out here and wet yourself because your car looks that great. It actually looked better than it shows in the video. In the video, I already looked at it. It shows some flaws that literally did not show up in person, and that's what's frustrating about shooting, is you never know what you're going to get because there's just so many variables between the camera, the lighting. Anyhow, I was impressed, you know, and I think I've got a pretty critical eye after this many years. So what are some things that transpired after he came out for the big reveal? And I wrote them down. Okay, where's my after? Okay, these are literally verbatim what came out of his mouth. Wow, looks great. at that point I'm going, really? Great. That's all I get is just, wow, looks great. Looks fantastic. Okay, and this is no special order here, and I'm taking it out of context, but the bigger context is that I'm done with the car. It's time for Johnny Customer to come out and inspect my work and then pay me. Looks great. Looks fantastic. You know, Darren, I think you exceeded, what did he say? I think you exceeded what I think you thought was even possible. Well, it's like, yeah, I told you that. I said, you know what, Johnny Customer, it came out better than I even thought. And that's why I kind of made that joke where it's like, hey, I promised you 80%. I'm sorry to tell you, I was only able to remove 90%. Okay, so there's over delivering for you. So he was very pleased. I said, and this is where I dug in behalf of you guys. I said, you know what? I do a lot of mentoring. I shoot videos because he actually came out coincidentally as I was shooting that last piece. Fortunately, he didn't interrupt and he had enough awareness to not interrupt. And I said, hey, just to let you know, I shoot videos. I mentor guys all across the country. I have these videos so they can learn. Because running a detailing business is far more than just knowing how to do something, as in how to detail a car. It's how to deal with customers, how to talk to them, how to present yourself, how to manage expectations, how to find out what their expectations, all these other intangibles that I'm trying to teach you guys. So, what else? Okay, I dug in, I said, okay, Mr. Customer. After our initial customer, or wait, let me back up. I said, hey, so by the way, just answer me this. Are you glad you had me do your car? And he says, yes, I'm very glad. You exceeded my expectations, Darren. And I said, but you were prepared to let me go, weren't you? In fact, I even told you no, right? And he goes, yeah. I said, so based on that, you're happy I stayed and did the job, right? He goes, yes, I am. I said, so we both won. Yes, we did. I said, okay, so when I assessed with you the bird dropping and the thing, and after he checked it, by the way, he said, you know what? That looks a lot better than what you made me to believe. And that's me, where I like to underpromise and over-deliver. So if their expectations are way up here and they're unrealistic, I have to talk them off the edge of the cliff. Yeah. But I'm also going to underpromise so that their expectations are actually moved down here, so that when I do perform, now they're surprised, and in a pleasant way, it's like, whoa, okay, until it's done. But I sure as heck know that I'm going to do my darned best to over-deliver. So once again, I over-delivered because he came out and was like, okay, Darren, that bird thing, I can barely see it. You did way better than I thought. And I literally had to show him, and I said, you see that dimple? That tells me it's through the clear coat. It's not realistic for anyone to fix that. I said, so when you walked away after our discussion, and I basically told you no, but then you said, no, Darren, I want you to do it, and obviously I stayed and did it, what went through your head? Did you think to yourself, okay, Darren's full of crap, and I know it can be done, and I possibly just chose the wrong detailer in the moment? Or did you think, you know what, maybe I had some unrealistic expectations, and a lot of it was based on ignorance because I didn't understand the nature of the beast? He said, well, really, Darren, what it came down to is I just wanted a good job. I read your website. It was very detailed. I was impressed. I thought it seemed like you really knew what you were doing. But then when you came out here and you're telling me that it can't be fixed, it's like ultimately I just wanted to know, A, if it can be done, and maybe you're not the guy. I said, so in other words, what I think you're saying is that maybe I don't know my own limitations. That in fact, if you had found the right detailer who had maybe more experience, that he could have fixed that. So maybe you are sitting there thinking that Darren doesn't understand his own limitations. He goes, exactly. I said, well, just to let you know, no. Trust me, I understand my limitations. This is not one of them. No detailer is going to fix that bird dropping because it's gone through the clear coat. no detailer is going to be able to sand away and polish away all those scuffs on your threshold plate. It's body shop time. That's the only way it's going to be truly perfect. And he says, well, I understand that now, and a lot of it was based on ignorance, and I did have unrealistic expectations. So I dug in and I got him to admit it, not because I'm being prideful and I just want to rub his face into it, but because I want to understand. And that's why I spend so much time droning on in these videos, so that I can relate it to you guys, so you don't have to go through the tough learning curves that I've had to go through. Because trust me, you will have your share of them. No matter how much I'm able to teach you, you will still have them, as I'm still having my own to this day. A couple last points before I quit yanking my own chain. One of the most important indicators of how happy and pleased he was is that he gave me a $40 tip. Now I'll tell you, in my world, I do not get many tips. Probably because people already accept that I'm not the cheap guy in the block, and they're paying a hefty price to have Darren come and detail their car. So out of 20 people, I might get one person that gives me a tip. And that tip could be $5, it could be $50. You just never know. There's no golden rule for it. So I charged the guy $300 and he gave me a $40 tip, which in my world, that's pretty significant. So right there, Johnny Cheap Ass, for many reasons, is now giving me $40. So I'm walking away feeling like, yes, that was a win for me. I over-delivered. He was very happy. He just said he was very happy. He just said that I exceeded his expectations, and he just proved it by giving me an extra $40. So yes, that is the huge indicator. Now, a couple of warning signs. Warning number one was when he texted me and said, do you accept credit card? Well, dude, I already covered that on the phone, and the answer was no. It was cash only. Okay. And then to top that, at the very end, after we just got done discussing everything, he loves the job. It's like, okay, let me go get you your money, Darren. Hey, is a check okay? And I thought, are you kidding me? How many ways and how many times do I have to say this? Cash. Where's the mystery? Cash, as in green money. I said, no, cash only. He goes, okay. Goes in, gets me cash. He says, here's $340. I said, hey, thanks. I really appreciate that, because I do. I really appreciate it. The third warning sign in this moment was when I pulled up, he had already taken off the license plate. Okay, when someone takes off their license plate, or they ask me to take it off so I can wax and polish behind the license plate, it's like, okay, dude, is that really going to make or break your world? Right there is a big indicator that this guy is hypercritical. So that's the lesson. Very long today. I'm curious. In fact, do me a favor. And I'm going to provide some links, because I polished this car, and the more I use those Menzerna polishes and that Griot's Garage buffer, it's like, man, I could kiss the feet of those formulators and inventors. I love that tool, and I love those products. Thank you guys in advance. Hopefully you're learning something. I'll provide links in there for the products that I use. Oh yeah, do me a favor. I'm running out of time. I can't respond to everyone, but do me a favor and let me know specifically what you learned, if anything, and maybe some specific things that you would like me to do videos on. And I don't mean just the how-to videos, but kind of these intangible parts of running and operating a business. So leave those comments for me. I read every comment. I just don't have time to respond to every comment. So thank you in advance for all your help and support, and in using my links to purchase any products through either Amazon or AutoGeek. All you have to do is go to my website first. Any link that you click on first and then you do shopping, I get credit for it. It's that simple. Whether you end up buying the exact thing you were after or not, so long as you entered that other website through my website, I get credit for it. Thank you.